Team, so let's get started. IPP today. We are diving into lesson 2 exit tickets. Last thing we did before we moved on to IA prep. So looks like we came pre-sorted, so what we're supposed to do. Let's just start right from the beginning. All right, so let's talk about success. How did it go last week on 2.md, 3.md.4? You guys were at a 49% mastery, and where are you today?
76.
Yeah, 76%. So you're seeing like tremendous growth happening in this standard. And PACE actually had the highest exit tickets of all 3 classes in today's work. So nice job. Jot that down. Make sure you know that you're doing that. Awesome. Great. And just make sure you know that we're in Unit 6, Lesson 2. And today we're concentrating on measuring with a broken ruler. Our favorite. All right, so let's actually jump right into the standard. So pulling up 3.md.4, you guys have your breakdown. I have my breakdown. This will be on the dot cam. I can see right here. What are we asking kids to do conceptually and procedurally? Jen, why don't you jump in conceptually? What are we asking them?
So we want them to understand that like the object is measured, and like the like being able to look at the ruler and understand like the spaces and what they represent in terms of like 1, 2, 3, like how to relate that to the measurement.
Yeah, so like accurately understanding the interval, right? Mm-hmm. Understanding what intervals are in terms of measuring. Colleen, what else?
Understand the scale is created between your smallest whole number and the largest partially filled whole number.
Right. So we're going to come back into that quite a bit today when we look at our twos. Procedurally, what are we asking kids to do, Jen?
To find like the measurement to the nearest half inch or quarter inch measure.
Yeah. What tools are we asking them to use today?
Using the broken ruler.
Yeah, I'm using rulers, broken rulers. Awesome. So just remembering that we need kiddos to remember that a ruler is like a number line. If in a fraction model, it's the bottom line, and we need them to see that it is always evenly spaced intervals. And so the interval doesn't change. We're just adding number of intervals together. All right, so let's dive into today and look at student work. So can you guys actually pull out your teacher exemplars for this? And I'll pull out my teacher exemplar to look alongside yours. And so as we're looking at the gap between your teacher exemplar and my exemplar, and then also we'll pull out our scholar exemplar here, our 4. So what do we see on the page, Jen?
There's a starting point and an end point.
Yeah, specifically it's labeled, right? So start and end labeled. Colleen, what else?
We see the intervals.
Yeah, so there's jumps for across the whole intervals. What else is labeled?
The jumps within the half inch and the quarter inch.
Yes, nice. So that's here on my page. It looks like that's there on most of the teachers' pages. What's the gap here in our scholar 4?
They didn't show the jumps.
Yeah, they're not showing the jumps. So we know they've got the equations right? There are standout here, but they're not showing these interval jumps. And so I actually pulled up a second 4, different from the one that you guys brought, because this scholar is doing what?
Showing the jumps.
Yeah, showing the interval jumps. Okay, in addition to that, what is represented on my exemplar?
The ending versus the beginning and like finding the difference.
Yeah, there's equations there, specifically using the whole numbers and then the partially completed whole. So coming back to the standard, we need kids to demonstrate their understanding of that today. Go ahead and fix you guys' teacher exemplars if you're missing something. Okay, and then, awesome. So let's break down this question. We're looking today at question 1. And we see we're asking scholars just to measure or to give us the length of the object. So a 1 in this question would be no access to the problem. Go ahead and jot that down. And then let's actually look at a 3. What would a scholar need to have if they were executing this effectively? Or they're showing us that they understood the standard.
The correct measurement.
Yeah, correct answer. What else?
Some
jumps.
sort, yeah.
Jumps or some sort of calculation strategy, right? They need to show us that they can represent a strategy. And then what takes this to a 4 is if we look here, both of these scholars are able to answer back in a complete sentence. And we know that as we move on to constructed responses, it's going to be crucial for kids to be able to answer back in complete sentences. All right, so looking at our data, we've got no kids in the 1s, snap it up. We got 7 kids in the 2s, 20 kids in the 3s, and 2 kids in the 4s. What? Who are we looking at today? What scholar work? What bucket are we looking at today?
The 2s.
The 2s. Why not the 3s? Do we need to turn the 3s into 4s? What's the gap between a 3 and a 4?
No, they're proficient. It's the jumps.
Yeah, right. So who are we looking at today?
The 2s.
Looking at the 2s. So let's do that. All right, so I'm going to split this work between you guys, and we're just going to dive into, given the rubric and given our unpacking of the standard, what do we see conceptually and procedurally? What do we see?
I think they were all able to like show us their start and end with like the whole numbers, like, or labeling on their, like on the picture, lining it up like they all marked the start and the end point.
Do you see that on your group too, Colleen? They're all labeling?
Yes.
Great, so they're marking it, they might not be labeling it. So procedurally, maybe they're not labeling. Okay, what else? What else do we see in their work? Are they showing, if they're using jumps, are they showing accurate jumps and accurate intervals?
This one showed jumps, but then I don't, like they did 1, 2, 1, 2, so like they don't actually label them correctly.
Got it. So let's break it down. They've got accurate whole number intervals, right? What about here? No
There's no
jumps, no
jumps.
evidence. What about here?
Nothing.
No evidence, but like looking at what they have, 1, 2, starting with 3 whole numbers, tricky. Let's look here. We've got evidence of what?
They're showing jumps.
Accurate what? Be more specific. Whole number.
jump.
And here?
Accurate whole number.
Great. So we have to pull that out so we know what we're actually talking about is the misconception to the 1/4 and 1/2 inch. Does that make sense? Okay. So now that we're focused in there, we can see where this gap is and talk about procedurally and conceptually what scholars are missing. So as we look at this too, what is he missing, Jen? What's
Labeling like the 2/4 jumps, and like that's a 1/2 inch.
exactly, yeah. This scholar actually labeled that as one whole, correct? So they're not showing that this is a partially completed component of the next what?
Whole.
The next whole. Let's look here at this scholar. What do we see any evidence of partitioning here? So he says the pencil is 3/3. What did this scholar do?
They
It is
just went-
just the whole.
They just did 3 whole jumps. This is a little bit of an out. Let's keep looking. What did this scholar do? He says that the pencil is what?
they-
2 1/4 inches. So what did they do?
So they
It's not accurate with the.
the half
part.
and the whole and the 4.
Yes, so not accurately partitioning down to the 1/4 inch. What about here? So we said whole number partitioning's fine. What did they do?
They tried, but like, so they did 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Like, I can't really tell what they're saying that final
Well, where's the
measurement
answer?
is. Yeah,
Where's the answer?
they didn't put.
They don't have an answer. Right. And what about here?
They have the wrong answer.
The size of the pencil is 2
They didn't
1/4.
go all
So
the
what are
way
they
to their
doing?
end
They
point.
didn't go to the end.
Yeah. Yes. So the gap here is that our kids they're able to accurately do whole number jumps, correct? Where are
Yes.
they struggling?
When it comes to breaking down like a smaller quarter. or
Identifying a half
within
inch.
Yes. So let's land the plane here. They are not conceptually or they're not procedurally measuring correctly to the 1/4 and the 1/2 inch. And so if we think about fractions, which came right before this next whole number interval is the next whole, and they have to realize that each quarter inch, each half inch is another part of that next whole. So they have to maintain the whole number integrity of the whole number jumps, which would be how many inches?
2.
2. And they're not then able to, once they do the integrity of the whole number jumps, they're not able to do what, Jen?
They're not able to accurately count the smaller fractional within a 1 inch.
Yeah, the intervals, right? The quarter inch and the half inch interval. Let's just all say that they're not able to do what? Accurately count what?
The quarter inch and the half inch.
The quarter and the half inch intervals. Let's actually get that down on the paper. So that is a core procedural misconception, right? That the quarter inch, and they're not able to identify where the quarter inch is and call it 1/4 inch, and able to identify where the half inch is and call it 1/2 inch. So procedurally, they're not able to identify the quarter inch and call it 1/4 if I looked at a ruler, or the 1/2 and call it 1/2. We know that because of the evidence that shows us a scholar calling it a whole, or a scholar skipping over it and calling it a fourth, right? We have evidence that shows they're not able to say, when my next interval is partitioned into fourths, this one is not called 1/4 and I can't find 1/4. Okay, so what's the error then? What's the math mistake they're making?
Not able to identify a quarter or a half inch.
Yeah, the error is they're measuring incorrectly, right? It's sometimes as simple. I know we get tricked up on the error. It's just as simple as that. So they're measuring incorrectly. That's the math error that they made. And the biggest misconception behind that is what? Thinking about fractions again, because that's where this gap first started. What's the biggest misconception behind 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4? Colleen?
They don't understand that a fraction or a whole is partitioned into fourths and halves.
Yes, and using, whether it's broken ruler or whole ruler, we see that broken ruler didn't trip our guys up, right? No kid is saying, oh, it's 2 because it starts at the 2 inch. That's not the gap. They're not able to equally partition or understand that that next component is part of the new whole, and do that equally. Okay, so then what's the sort of, to stamp this misunderstanding?